Hey y'all, it's Zoe. Welcome back to the video on my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about my experiences being a Chinese adoptee in Taiwan. Because if you are new to my channel, I am here in Taiwan for a year working. And it's been a very interesting experience. So that is what I'm going to be talking to you all today. So first of all, I really do enjoy it here in Taiwan. I think that it is a great place to be. It's fun, it's pretty, it's very cheap compared to the US. But being an adoptee, and specifically a Chinese adoptee, it's been very interesting for me in terms of my identity and just like wandering around Taiwan. So one thing that is very apparent is that I am Chinese. I look Chinese physically. And I kind of felt this way when I went to China as well, that I like blend in. And a lot of times people will just assume that I can understand them and understand the language, and that's probably like one of the hardest things for me. I would say I know enough Chinese to get me around day to day, but I'm not fluent, and I wish I was fluent. That's always something difficult for me, is the language barrier, and especially working with children who don't really know a lot of English. That is also pretty difficult sometimes. So just the blending in and the way that people think that I should understand and know what they're saying sometimes is difficult. And I was talking to someone in my program who is European, and she was saying that she doesn't like the fact that she stands out as a foreigner. And for me, I was kind of like, well, now you know how I feel in the US, because when I'm in the US, I stand out as a foreigner, whereas here I blend in. So people don't expect me to be American, don't expect me to understand English. That's like, honestly, that's one of the best parts, is because like when other people are speaking English, they don't expect me to be able to understand them, but then I do. So yeah, there's that. With the whole language barrier thing, it has made me think a lot about studying the language and wanting to be fluent in it, and all of that, and also about the future. And I was gonna make potentially a separate video for that. But specifically being adopted has been really interesting because of when people find out about my background. So when I first got here, people were asking me questions, get to know me. My background was very assumed. Even like when I get into an Uber drivers like ask me questions and stuff. They will ask if my mom and dad are Chinese or Taiwanese, and then I tell them my mom's American, and they ask about my dad. And every time I've said I don't have a dad, they apologize. Uber drivers, my coworkers, they're always like, oh, sorry. Like, I think that they offended me by asking me about a dad when I don't have one, which has been very interesting, because obviously in East Asian cultures, it is very normal to have two parents. And even if you don't live with them, you might live with like grandparents and have like multi-generational households. Having one parent, I don't think is very common. So that has been very interesting, is just like not only having people like assume my background, but then worrying that they offended me by assuming a part of my background. And a lot of times when they do that, I then say, oh, I'm adopted, which is why I don't have a dad. One time when I went to a hot pot place, and the waitress was like asking us all these questions about where we came from, why we're here. And there are other East Asian people in my program, and so she was almost like trying to guess what ethnicity we all were. So one of my friends, she is Korean, and she gets asked if she's Korean, but also sometimes gets asked if she's Japanese a lot. Then there is someone who's half Chinese, half white. We have some Cantonese, Hong Kong people as well. And so when she found out that I was adopted from China, because she's like, oh, you look Chinese. They always know that I look Chinese. But anyways, when she found out, she was like, oh wow, like the people who are adopted from China are so lucky. And that's something that I'm used to hearing a lot in the States. So I was like, yeah, that makes sense for her to say that. And if you saw a few weeks ago, I posted a video about sharing my gotcha day. So that was also a thing that I wanted to do with my school, and they explained to me that like adoption in Taiwan is not a big thing, so the kids don't really know about it. So I really had to explain it on very easy, simple to understand terms. And some of the kids asked me those kinds of questions, like if I know anyone I'm related to, and basic kid questions. There are a few other adoptees that I have met in Taiwan, and it's really interesting being a Chinese adoptee here. I always wonder, like, if I was an adoptee of another ethnicity, if I would feel the same way. But especially growing up like transracially, it's very interesting. There are times that I'm here that I wonder like what my life would have been like if I was raised by a Chinese speaking family, and if I could potentially know the language in that sense. But at the same time, I say this in almost every video I make, I am very grateful for being adopted and like getting to where my life is now. Like I wouldn't even be here if I weren't adopted. So even if I was raised by a Chinese speaking family, it's possible that I would never even end up in Taiwan. That's like a multiverse Zoe. It's pretty much just the same types of experiences I experienced in China when I studied abroad. The language barrier is really difficult sometimes, and then just having to explain my background and my story. So far I haven't met any like rude opinions about it. People haven't given me any rude comments, and usually when I say I'm from America, they don't ask me any more questions. And it's kind of interesting comparing it to like the kinds of questions and microaggressions I face in the US, especially when they ask me where I'm from and I say Texas, and they'll be like, where are you really from? And then that's when I'd say China. But here it's like, oh, where are you from? I'm from America, and that's all they ask. Sometimes they'll ask me what state, but I don't then have to say, well, I was born in China. I only end up saying that because then they ask me if my mom and dad are Chinese. So yeah, but overall it's been a really fun experience. I think it's a very unique experience being a Chinese adoptee in Taiwan, especially because like I wasn't born in Taiwan, I was born in China. And it's kind of interesting because of the relationships between China and Taiwan, and then China and the US and Taiwan and the US. And they don't really teach a lot about China. Like the kids know China exists, they recognize the flag, they know about the landmarks, but what I've noticed in lessons that have to do with other countries, China is not usually in that list. It's usually other East Asian countries, but not China, if that makes sense. So being born there, I don't know if that came with any kind of assumptions they had about me, or if they might think something different about me because of that. But there are a lot of people in this program who are East Asian, and specifically like from China or from Hong Kong or Korea. I don't know what it's like in other counties, but I do know other ethnically Chinese people in this program that are in other counties in Taiwan. So I have no idea if their experiences are the same. But this was just my experience. So yeah, I know this was kind of a short video and it didn't really have a structure to it, but there's not really a structure to lived experiences, so that's just a little snippet onto what it's like being an adoptee in Taiwan. So if you're planning to come to Taiwan and you are a Chinese adoptee, you might feel the same things that I felt, but that doesn't make you any less of a person, any less Chinese, any less American, or whatever other nationalities / ethnicities that you identify with. So that is pretty much all I have to say for that, and I will see you all next time. Bye!